Hello! I received 6 different types of questions from my subscribers about dating and relationships, and to keep them private, I've rewritten all of them so that they sound similar in tone, and I'm really excited to answer them. I'm Jane, and I'm finally married now, and I still don't think I'm the best at it, but I do my best every day, and I married my best friend. I just wanted to say that I'm here for you, with you, and we're gonna go through the questions and give you the power that you want or need. Starting with, what do you actually do for fun on dates? Well, if you have a date, I guess you silently pat yourself on the back a little. That's a good place to start. I guess I like to play video games on dates because then I'm doing something interactive and there's something to talk about. I don't really like movies on dates just because then both people are looking at a screen and expect it to be quiet. And for meeting someone who I've never met before, I like to recommend just grabbing a quick tea. Sometimes people are surprised by that because a lot of times first dates are expected to be dinners or lunches, but I really think just grabbing a coffee or a tea for 20 minutes and saying, hey, I'd just like to get to know you briefly to start before we go on a full date. There's nothing wrong with that, and it's way more efficient than having to sit through a dinner. It really depends on where you are and how long you've met the person, but that's generally what I recommend. For relationships, if you're in a relationship but you're going on dates with your significant other, that can be very different. And in my opinion, there's no rule about it, but it is good to practice on a daily basis, just naturally asking each other, what do you want to do for the evening? What do you want to do this weekend? And really planning whatever it is that you're going to do together, even if it means that you're doing separate things but you're sitting on the couch near each other. There's no rule about how to communicate that, but it's just a nice way to just practice and get faster at it, because then as life goes on, it gets busier. And it's nice to have a very efficient way to ask each other what you want to do and figure that out together. In a similar vein, figuring out what you want for dinner, there's always going to be differences, but getting faster and more efficient at tuning in on what the other person wants and figuring out together what that is can help a lot. Question number 2. I have self-esteem problems and I keep thinking I'm not good enough for anyone. That is extremely relatable. That's definitely a very, very natural feeling, and I think that I'd be surprised if there were people in the world who really never thought that way ever. I think that the mainstream commentary on self-esteem is pretty bad. Some people say, you go queen, you're perfect, no one deserves you, you do you, and you're perfect as you are. And I don't think that's very healthy, because everyone has something to grow and learn and improve. And part of the human experience and part of our happiness, in my opinion, depends on the fact that we're growing and learning and improving ourselves, regardless of if we're going on dates. So I think it's very unhelpful to tell ourselves that we are fine exactly as we are. It's a little bit confusing because I think that we get a lot of joy, all of us as human beings get a lot of joy out of improving ourselves. On the other hand, just sitting around and thinking that I'm never going to find anyone can be debilitating. It's one of those interesting situations where if every day our mindset is I cannot do it, then that can be so tiring and take up so much energy that it distracts us from, wait, what am I going to do to get to my goal? If that goal is to go and date someone or enter a relationship of some sort. I would think of it like if you have low self-esteem, I think that every single person has a very unique set of things that would improve their self-esteem meaningfully, that includes actually improving things. For me personally, this is very, very specific to me, but I'm just using myself as an example because it's easy to pick on myself. I used to worry about my weight obsessively almost every day, and especially when I was single. And I would think all the time, I'm fat. I knew that I had to improve that, but I also knew that I didn't want to become disordered in that thinking either. I did think to myself, oh, I'm too fat to find a significant other, but I actually meaningfully had to improve something in my life to get those thoughts to go away, because they really became rather intrusive. after a while. If there is something that I can do that will make me feel more confident, even if it actually requires me to change myself, I will actually do it if that gets me closer to being more confident the next time I end up dating someone. Because it never hurts really to make myself healthier mentally and physically. And so that's just one example where I don't really believe in the whole online discourse of you're perfect as you are, accept yourself as you are. I think it's a constant growth process regardless of what's going on in our dating lives. And then besides that, on the other side of things, let's say you are improving yourself and just doing what you can, there's another side of it, which is sometimes we get really stuck thinking, oh, I want to find a marriage partner, or I want to find a significant other who I will date for a long time, or something really, really drastically different from being single. And if that's the case, then one way to not distract myself from lack of self-esteem, but to give myself more esteem is to just focus on the baby steps that get there. And the baby step is, first of all, leaving my house. I don't like leaving my house that much. That is one. And then the second thing is, if you can, if you're already improving yourself, find a way to do that outside of your house where you will interact with other people, even if it's just going to the gym or going to the library, but then also focusing on just making friends. And I think that a lot of great relationships come out of dating a best friend or marrying a best friend. So the baby step to me is making more friends rather than trying to find a romantic partner. Then you can also avoid having to do online dating. Question number 3. I don't want to date because I have a general aversion to feeling any pain. You know, it's interesting because we can do a lot with our free will. We can do a lot. We get to choose a lot of things, like, am I going to get 1,000 PlayStation Platinum trophies? Am I going to go to every continent in the world? One of my friends did that, which is really cool. Are we going to wear blue boots? We get a lot of choices in life. And one of the big choices in life is to avoid pain. And one of the strange things about avoiding pain is that a lot of wonderful things in life require some level of pain to get there. Some people like to use the marathon analogy of, well, you have to get through the pain cave to finish a marathon. I think that's true, and it's a really good analogy, but it can be a little bit hard to relate to, because I don't really believe that everyone should run a marathon. I think that an easier thing to relate to is to just think of a phobia that you may have or a friend may have, just any phobia, like the fear of flying or the fear of heights or the fear of some kind of animal. And I would think of it like this. If you're afraid of, let's say, a dog, and you're afraid that general dogs are dangerous, but you force yourself to play with the dog, and at first you could be crying, you could be in a lot of distress, you could run back home and not want to come back. But you keep playing with a relatively safe dog. Let's say you do it over and over and over again. Each one of those times is going to be extremely painful. But when you get to the point where you realize and you look at the dog and you realize that you're not afraid anymore, that is one of the most beautiful, powerful, outrageously amazing feelings that I think we can have as people. The feeling of getting over a fear. People are made to have a lot of fears because we are able to preserve our lives and protect ourselves. And just like with phobias, just like with animals or heights or planes, there is a real danger. There's always a real danger. But just as with dating, the feeling of getting over the fear of a painful relationship or a painful breakup, or getting to the place where we can find red flags that we need to stay away from, or people we need to stay away from, or people with bad character that we need to stay away from in dating situations. Getting to the place where we're not afraid anymore and we know what to look for, and we don't fear a breakup, or we don't fear that we could be single, or we don't fear that we could go through a divorce, or we don't fear anything related to a relationship. I think that in some cases that can be even more empowering if we end up with a good relationship with someone, because that really changes our whole lives. And being in a relationship, especially a long-term relationship, can completely shift the trajectory of our lives, what we end up dreaming about and getting done, and what we end up achieving, because now there's two people on a team in your lifetime. There's two people trying to make sure now that you get to achieve all your dreams. And so there has to be pain to get there, because it's such a difficult thing to date and to be in relationships. It just is. But then the amount that you can move forward in your life and the potential of your life can increase dramatically when you find someone who also wants to fight for you to do what you want and do what you love and improve yourself as a person. That is a long way of saying you can get through it. No matter what kind of relationship pain that you go through, I know you can get through it, and I know that you can conquer that pain and conquer any fears you may have about being in pain. And time always helps with relationship related pain. Time always helps, because things just never hurt as much when time has passed, especially if you are able to learn from anything that you want to do differently for next time. Number 4, I could look for a new partner, but unless we fall in love and get married, no matter what, it'll be sad at some level. So I should do nothing and basically not date unless I find someone I want to marry. In a very ideal situation, all of us would be born knowing what kind of person we want to marry one day, and then as soon as we scan the population and that special person shows up, then there's like a light bulb moment. I found my person and I'm done. And there are some prodigies out there who are able to do that in 2nd grade, but I think for the vast majority of people, we are not able to know who we want our forever person to be unless we go through experiences. And the reason I say that is because I really believe strongly that dating is skill-based, and it's not random. It's kind of like searching for a job. It's kind of like rock climbing. It's kind of like skiing. And parts of it may seem random or out of our control. With skiing, the weather could be bad. With job searching, maybe no one wants our exact skill set and experience. But with all of those things, the more experience we have, the more we've actually done it physically in person and really tried over and over again, the more that we really are able to do it more efficiently and faster and better than we were when we started. Dating is extremely skill-based, and I know that because some of the most beautiful people can't be in a relationship or suffer in them, and some of the people who you may find unconventionally attractive are able to have a happy marriage for a long period of time. So I don't think it's really about the looks. I don't really think it's about the outward appearance. I really think the number one absolute most important thing in a healthy relationship is character, honesty, integrity, conscientiousness, empathy, and can I trust that person completely to at least attempt to tell me the truth. Of course, we make mistakes and we don't always say the truth because sometimes we don't realize that we're mistaken, or sometimes we think positively or negatively of a situation, but does that person meaningfully try to tell me the truth every time they speak to me? Can I really trust them, and will they do the right thing when I'm not looking? Those are character traits, and having good character is more important than anything else. And so that is why I really think part of that is skill-based and personality-based. The other part of it being skill-based is just actually being in a relationship. How do I communicate with this person? How do I negotiate with them? How do I share my feelings? How do I listen to them? How do I even plan a date How do I figure out what they like? How do I figure out how to find someone who likes a lot of the same things I do? All aspects of dating, in my opinion, are very skill-based, and you can definitely be reassured by the fact that the more you date, the better you'll get at it and the better chances you are of getting into a marriage if that's your end goal. Question number 5. In my opinion, dating feels like it's been on a decline when it comes to the newer generations. There seems to be a very different meaning behind it than what it used to be, to the point that it doesn't actually feel like love anymore. With, for example, how people move on so quickly like it's nothing. I've struggled finding someone because of this, and I'm not really sure what to do about it. What is your opinion on all of the above? I think that's a really interesting set of questions. I'll try to answer each of them bit by bit. The first premise that this question is posing is that compared to previous generations, dating could be different or have a different meaning, or maybe not seem so serious to people, or maybe some people just start ghosting each other. For Western civilization, for the most part, dating used to be more of courtship for marriage and driven by religious rules. That's not true for everyone, but that was a very big mainstream idea. And nowadays, in Western civilization, a lot of our society is not as much driven by religious rules, and now we have to individually create our own moral frameworks. And a lot of people would agree with each other that we shouldn't try to hurt other people, we shouldn't lie or cheat or steal. However, the degree to which that is wrong, the situations in which those things are wrong, can vary more from person to person if there isn't a religious organization that sets the tone and the precedent or the rules for when something is morally right or wrong. So there is an overall interesting situation that makes it a little harder to date because it requires more communication back and forth on what we believe, what I believe and what you believe. But overall, there is a general requirement now, if we're not guided by a religion or a church or a temple or something of that sort, we do have to personally decide what is right and wrong. And then there can be quite a lot of variation. So I don't know if in our lifetime dating has changed that much since the dating apps came out, because there could also be more social media reports or internet reports, which is reporting bias, that make us think that bad dating experiences are more common, and then that can be confusing from a statistics standpoint. It's hard to measure, but from my personal experience, just to give reassurance to you, in my communities, I've lived in China when I was really young, so that doesn't count exactly, but I've lived in England and have memories from there in Wisconsin, Florida, California, New Jersey, Massachusetts, New York State, New York City. I've lived in a lot of different places, and I've worked in a lot of different industries, in civil engineering, material science, research, in the finance industry. I've been exposed to quite a lot of different types of people and a lot of different types of places. And in all of that time, I've met literally thousands of people, and out of those people, in Wisconsin, in Florida, you could say in Democrat and Republican dominated places, left and right, the one thing that I see the most often is that most people want to be in a monogamous relationship with one person for the rest of their life and be happy with them and get married. Most people that I've run into, at least. That doesn't mean that that's the majority in the world, but somehow, after being in all of those places throughout my whole life, since I was a little kid, I've just mostly run into people who want that. Very rare that I run into anyone who would ghost someone after a date, or just date around, or just sleep around. Maybe an earlier part in their lives they did, but not, pretty much not at all, out of the people I've met who are in their late 20s to early 30s or older. Based on my observations, practically everyone I've ever met wants to be married, wants to be in a serious relationship, and wants that to be long-lasting. However, the interesting thing is, before they get to that point, they have to date, they have to meet other people, because they don't know who they want to get married to. A lot of times when we're dating, we could be interacting with those people at those times when they don't know quite yet who they want to end up with. Maybe they feel lonely and they need the attention, or just crave some kind of human connection. And that can be very disappointing when we find out that that person just wanted the social experience, but not necessarily something more serious. That bothered me a lot, especially in my 20s. So what I do in those situations is I realized that the only thing I could do about it is to just notice it faster. Just like how this is a little extreme, but it's also important in life. Sometimes it takes time to figure out if a human being is a sociopath or a narcissist. But the more people we meet and the faster we get at picking up on the signs and the patterns, the faster we get at figuring that out. And so my encouragement is to just keep figuring out if someone is just basically using you for attention, basically using up your energy in a way that they are not actually serious about dating you. Figure that out faster and faster. And even if it's happened in the past where it seemed like they really liked you, or it seemed like they really wanted to date you, and for whatever reason it didn't work out, I would replay those videos in my head of what happened just one time, doesn't have to be more than once, and just think, what were the signs? Because now it's like a mystery game. Now it's like, I'm going to figure this out, and then next time if it happens, I'm going to catch it faster. I would see it as a positive, see it as a learning experience, because at the very least, you got to learn something from the situation, if there was a situation like that, and then you get to use that as experience for next time. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you were brave enough to even go out and talk to someone, and that's already something that's amazing. Because some of us, I did this for years, I just was a hermit, total hermit. If you have any experience, even if it's negative, I think it's a good thing. I think we use that as experience for next time and keep going. Alright, last question. I would love to get married, and I'm at an age where I probably should. But if you filmed my entire life, you wouldn't observe any indication that I wanted to find anyone. But I know I probably should. What are some strategies you have to motivate to looking for someone new? When I'm single, part of me doesn't want to search for a new girlfriend, but part of me is scared of rejection or something going wrong in some way, which will result in inaction. And I'm assuming you mean sitting on the couch. I think it's extremely intimidating to find someone when we're single. It seems like the world is asking you for something that seems impossible and unbelievable, especially a healthy, happy relationship. It just seems like I'm being asked to make pigs fly or something. Maybe that's just me. So it is hard to get you motivated. I can be like Asian tiger mom now and say life is short, you don't know when you're gonna die, so don't you want to experience this? If that works for you, then that works. There's one day that I went to Coney Island Beach, and I wanted to go by myself. I was so lonely that day. I was living in Chelsea in a little studio apartment in Manhattan. I think I might have taken the Q train or something similar to that to go to Coney Island Beach. And when I was going to church, back during COVID, I had been baptized there, and about 50 people came, and it was really fun. I went back by myself just to be somewhere that felt familiar but different, because I had left that church. I just wanted to go somewhere comforting. And I was looking at the waves, and I suddenly realized I would love to show a little kid, like a future child of mine, I would love to show them the beach, because I'm enjoying this, but it would be so much better if I could show a little kid this beach. So that has nothing to do with marriage or anything exactly. That was just about the idea of being a mom one day. And then I realized, wait, if I want to be a mom one day, I would love for the kid to have a father. And not just any father, but a father who really wants to be a father. I still don't really want to have a child, and I don't feel ready, but I realized, okay, I'm gonna have to go and find a father for my future child somehow. I have to get out of my house. I love being in my house. I made my studio so cute and comfortable. I really didn't want to leave ever. Even if the weather was good, I just loved being in there. I realized, man, I have to be outside of my house. I have to. And so it's not really a motivation thing. I think it's more like sometimes we reach a certain age in our life. It doesn't have to be any certain age, but we reach an age in our lives where we like to share things with someone else. After that, 1 or 2 years later, I had moved to a 1-bedroom apartment in Midtown West. This was on West 50th and 8th Avenue, where I just moved from actually. And I was renting out this 1-bedroom by myself. I think I might have been dating my husband at that time, but the memory is more of just me being alone in my apartment one day and thinking, I don't really want to be by myself in my house. I think I just want to actually have a best friend here who's just always around, and I hope that I don't snore too much, and I hope I don't smell bad around him, and I hope that I don't annoy him too much. But if he somehow manages to accept all of my flaws and help me improve myself and not mind if I sneeze too loudly, I'd like there to be a person around. And I think that's all it takes. Now, you know what I'm gonna ask you? It's gonna be Valentine's Day, and if you're single, I'm gonna challenge you to message one of your friends. Just text them or call them. Calling is better, actually. Just call them and say hi, and just chat with them about how their day went, and find out if you can hang out together. Not on Valentine's Day if you don't want to be too obvious, but find out if they want to hang out. And if they are interested in you, they will definitely want to hang out with you a second time. If you're married and you listen to this for fun, with no interest or desire to go on more dates, I'd also ask that you tell us in the comments how you met your significant other, and tell us some advice about how to meet people. And please give the single people any advice you have about how to date and how to find someone great. And with that, I bless you with all of the power and the confidence and the ability to seduce someone that you could possibly need for Valentine's Day. Ding, ding, ding. Hope that worked. And please tell me how it goes. I will always be your wing woman, no matter what you're going through. And if you're in a relationship, I hope that it's blessed, and I hope that it's long lasting, and I hope that it's happy. And have fun. Dating really is a skill. The more you do it, the better you'll get. If you end up not going on a date for Valentine's Day, you should definitely take yourself on a date. Even if you're home, get yourself some tiramisu, get yourself a candle or something. Put on a good movie if you're by yourself. Put on your favorite pajamas and really, really take care of yourself, because you deserve it, and you are strong, and you are awesome, and you are smart, because if you weren't smart, you probably wouldn't enjoy my YouTube channel. I'll talk to you later, and have an amazing Valentine's Day. No matter where you are, no matter what you end up doing, just know that you're not alone, and we're all here for you.
We just smaller versions of a bigger home. Are you the rivers in your veins? Am I the flakes that become snow? And you might believe that everything is broken. Fragments of sentences we haven't spoken, but maybe are we just